Good afternoon and welcome to the first of the projects that we're going to be creating this term. So we've got our basic Rubik's Cube. It's got 27 squares in there. We've got 27 stickers on the sides, I haven't bothered doing the bottom or the back, and this is how it's going to end up looking. So first off, we're going to get started with a new file. We've already got a cube in there, which is useful. It's about the size we want, so we're going to keep it there. But we're going to do something called a modifier. Now, with this selected, I'm going to pull out the side. Oh, before we get started, go into Cycles Render. And remember, if at any time you need to pause to go over things we've done or what's what I've done, make sure you pause over and over again. So, what you need to do is go to this little wrench, and this is the modifier. And this will change this shape by whichever way you need it to. Clicking on Add Modifier. And in the Generate one, the second one down is Bevel. Now, Bevel is where you put a curve along the edge. In most things in real life, they'll have a curve. It's very rare, if not impossible, you'll see an exact 90-degree angle. Even more so with the Rubik's Cube, as each one of them has got a curved edge for where it turns. To change the settings here, we're going to change the segments, and it's going to add more lines in for the curve, the bevel on the edge of the cube. And I'm going to add this up to 4. Now, you don't need to always apply this straight away, but I am going to apply this one straight away now just to make it easier for what we're going to do. Secondly, we're also going to stay on Tools and go to Smooth. So it looks like a nice, smoothly shaded cube with nice beveled edges. So that is our first cube. The next stage is to get 27 of these. Now we could duplicate them by clicking duplicate or Shift and D, but you're not going to get them in exactly the right position. It's more work than you need to. When there's a modifier that does this for you. And the first one on Generate is called Array, and you'll see the copies there. This pretty much creates a copy, is either a row or a column. So I click on Array and it's put one right next to it. But we don't want there to be 2 of them, we want them to have 3. But that's one section of it, and not the ones going that way or the ones going up. That is just moving along the X axis. So what I need to do is another array, also 3, but this time we need it on the Y axis because we've got them going across on the X and then going back along the Y. So we change this to 1 and change the X to 0. So we've got in this section a 1 on the X bit, a 0 and a 0. So it's duplicating on the X axis. We've got a 0, a 1 and a 0 because it's duplicating 1 on the Y axis. And then, funnily enough, we do one more array. And we don't do it on the X, we do it on the Z axis, 3. And there we go. We've got our array here. I'm not going to bother applying it because you don't actually need to. I'm just going to go straight to the materials. Now, the material for the Rubik's Cube is kind of a little bit glossy. It's a black plastic, but all materials in real life don't just have the features of one or the other. There's no completely diffuse colour. Every single object will reflect some light and vice versa. There's nothing that's 100% glossy without any other texture in it at all. So with that in mind, we're going to use a different, so I need to click on Use Nodes. We're going to use a different shader. We're not going to use diffuse or glossy. We're going to use one of the newest shaders in Blender called Principled BSDF. Now what this does is it pulls in bits of lots of different characteristics of colour and puts them on. Most of these we're not going to worry about for now. Okay, all we need to worry about first is the base colour. Now the base colour is, well, the main colour of the object. This is like a diffuse colour. If I switch it to rendered mode, you'll see it's starting to get there. I'm also going to put a bit of roughness on here because we don't want it to be too shiny. I'm going to put 0.2 and it makes it slightly rough. It's difficult to see what's going on apart from the shininess there because there's not much light in the scene. So, same as with our previous one, we're going to select our light lamp, delete it, and I'm going to create a plane. Let's move it up here, make it nice and big. I'm going to rotate it with R on the y-axis. Rotate it with Z so it's pointing a bit more towards the Rubik's Cube. And move it away so it's up behind the camera. Let's move through it. Okay, so now we go to render mode. You'll see we've got a slightly dull but also slightly shiny Rubik's Cube. If I was to turn the roughness down to 0, it would be not hugely different on the shininess. Put roughness up to 1 though, you'll see it's not letting any light go at all. I'll leave it at 0.2, so it's got a bit of shine, there's a bit of roughness on there, but you can still tell what you're doing. These other ones, so for instance metallic, if you wanted a metallic sort of feeling you could mess with that, but it's not really what we're going for right now, and it's very slight changes for the setup we've got. So all we need to do, as I say, is set that to a kind of grey near black colour, set your roughness to about 0.2, and that should be fine for now. The next stage we need to do is to create the stickers. So I'm going to move up so that I'm roughly over the top of the Rubik's Cube, and I'm going to create another cube. Now this cube is going to be exactly the same size as the others to start with, which is a bit too big. So I'm going to raise it up. I'm going to scale it down on the Z-axis. So I press S followed by Z to scale the Z-axis, and there we go. I might make it a little bit more. There, that's nice and thin. And I'm going to move it so it's almost perfectly over the top of there. Now, obviously the stickers are not the whole size of the cube. So there's a few things we're going to do first. The first one we're going to do is something called subdivide it. Now, to subdivide something, you need to go into edit mode. And this is what allows you to change the very specific parts, the vertices, the edges of your object. And it only works on the one that you've currently got selected. So if I go to object mode and edit mode, or press tab, you'll go into a different view where the only thing you can select is this item here. If I click elsewhere, it won't let me. If I right click on one of the vertices, it will change that. If you need to select everything again, you just press A and A again, and everything will be selected. When everything's selected, we need to subdivide. Now, is in the Tools menu. Says I can't find it. Okay, well, can't find it in there, but if you press the mouse over here and press W and subdivide, what it's going to do is it's going to create some more parts of this cube. So instead of being a 1 by 1 by 1 by 1 by 1 cube, it is now 4 across and 4 down. And I'm going to add a modifier to this over here. Sometimes you have to scroll up if you can't see them. And I'm going to do subdivide again. This was subdivision surface. Now this makes the edges curved. I'm going to move this up to 3. So we've made the edges curved, we subdivided, and we subdivide the surface. Let's go to object mode. And you'll see, move up a bit, you've got a curved shape. Still a little bit big, so I'm going to scale it. If I press S and move around, it will scale it. But if I want to do it by a specific amount, I can type in how much I want to scale by. So I want it to be 90% of what it is, which is 0.9. And then I press enter, and there we go. Scaled down to 0.9. And while I'm here, I'm going to put a texture on it. Again, I'm going to use Principled BSDF. And this time, my base color is going to be red. I'm going to do the same sort of roughness again, 0.2. And when I look at the rendered mode, you'll see there is a red one there. when we were working earlier, I said about duplicating it. Now, you didn't want to duplicate it when you were doing the array, but we are going to duplicate these. So you can either go to Tools and Duplicate, and it will create another one. And what it will do is, as soon as you press that, it will start floating around. Now, we wanted to move along the y-axis, and remember down here, you've got x, y, z. If I press y, it's immediately going to be stuck on that axis. Move it to position, and it's there. So we double check it's the right place. Good. And then duplicate again, or Shift and D, followed by y, because we're on the y-axis again, to get 3 across. Perfect. Now I want to duplicate, but I'm going to duplicate all 3 of these. It'll make things a bit quicker. So I've got all 3 of them done. Shift D to duplicate. And moving towards us from the view we are is the x-axis. So I press X and move along. Left click when I'm happy, and it's in place. Do it again. Shift D, X. Oh. There we go. Bear in mind, when you duplicate, if you left click or press escape, it will put the duplicates exactly in the same place. So we've got 9 red stickers on top of it. Now that's only one side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate just one of them, move it along the x-axis bit, and then rotate it on the y-axis by 90 degrees. So I've done R, then Y, so rotate on the y-axis, and then if I type in 90, it turns it 90 degrees. Now, the reason I've just done one of these is because this is going to be a different colour. So I need to press on this number 10. What this means is that 10 stickers or 10 objects are using the same material. If I was to change this now, and I'll show you what happens. If I change this to blue and go to rendered, it's going to change all of them to blue because that material is linked. It's being used by all of them. Let's change that to red. But if I press on this 10, it's going to create a new material. Let's call this blue sticker. Should have really named the other material. Change it to blue. And now it's its own material. It's got the own material on there. Let's name this red sticker. And I'm going to do the same with this side as I did with the top. Duplicate Y, duplicate Y, select all of them, duplicate Z, duplicate Z. Check how it's looking. Remember, it doesn't matter if it's not 100% perfectly in line because they really are 100% perfectly in line in a shop. And then finally, I'm going to duplicate this one again, move it on the y-axis a bit, rotate on the z-axis 90 degrees, press enter, and there we go. And I'm going to make this one white. Just make sure it's nice and close. This one's going to be, click on the number, it's not always going to be 10. Click on white sticker, change that to white. You can actually just do the numbers here, so it'll be 1, 1, 1, but you can do it freehand if you want to. And let's duplicate these. It's always worth bearing in mind looking at this 3 lines, the X, Y, Z, to double check which direction you need to be moving things before you get started. Let's duplicate this on the Z-axis, up and down. And duplicate this on the Z-axis, up and down. So, there we go. Going back to what I was saying before, you can do an array to sort this out, but for the level that we're at, it's probably best to get you to duplicating things. And let's have a look at our Rubik's Cube. So it's not bad, it's not quite as bright as the one we had before. And the reason for that is I also had some environment lighting. So if you click on the world, these 4 don't change no matter what you've got selected. If I click on the world and click on the colour, And let's make it a bit brighter, maybe a bit of yellow in there. There you go, so it's a lot brighter now and you can see a lot more what's going on. And as I said, as these samples go up, the quality of the image gets better and better. Now you can obviously adjust this to however you want. If you want to put a plane underneath, which I would always suggest, it's nice when you're doing a picture to have something for your object to rest on. You can put one of those under there. I'm going to give this, like in the previous one, I'm going to do kind of like a brushed metal effect. See if I can get it to work as I want to. Silver, some metallic, so I've put metallic all the way up, it's made it quite glassy. Let's put roughness onto 0.5. There we go, so you've got a bit of your roughness now, looks like a brush sort of material. There are better ways of doing it, this will work for what we need right now. And finally, we need to get inside our camera. So you press 0 on the number pad on the far right of the keyboard, or you go to View and Camera here, you'll be inside your camera. Do Shift and F, and you'll be able to move your camera to wherever you need it to be. Go just here. You can get rid of the light if you want to, if it's a pain in the neck for your scene, or we can move further away. But for what we need to do right now, it shouldn't be a problem. There we go. And then I click on Render Image. Obviously, make sure it's whatever percentage you need. I'm not too worried right now because it's just a test render. Click on Render Image and it will build the scene, whatever was inside that view. This is going to take about 1 minute and 50 seconds, so I'm going to pause the video now. It's now finished rendering. So this is our Rubik's Cube. It's a little bit closer in the one from before, but that's not a problem. If you find your light is getting in the way, just move further away, then make it a bit bigger or increase the strength, and you get the same sort of lighting effect. I'm going to now save this in image, so I need to press F3 along the top of the keyboard. Give it a name, so it could be Rubik's Cube Tutorial. Make sure I'm saving it in the folder I need to, and Blender 1 and click on Save as Image. And that will now be saved in my documents for me to use. So that's how to create a Rubik's Cube in Blender. Make sure